welcome to A Better You. Today we have a very special guest. We have Battalion Chief Rebecca Brown. And Rebecca, I'm going to call you Becky if that's okay with you.
That'd be great.
And I just can't wait to hear your story. I've heard so much about you. From what I understand, you are the first female firefighter here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's correct.
How and why did you decide to become a firefighter?
Well, when I was younger, I saw a lot of female police officers, but I never saw a female firefighter. And I guess I never really thought about a female being a firefighter. And I'd gone to college and got homesick and came home and started working and, just, okay, what am I supposed to do now? No plans. And I came home one day from work and my mother said, they're looking for, just throwing stuff out, they're looking for people in the fire department. They're looking for females in the fire department. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I thought, a firefighter, how exciting.
And what year was that?
That was 1980.
1980?
Yeah, actually it was probably late 1979 because it took a while to go through all the process to get on the fire department. But, I was just so excited because of a number of things that, I didn't have to sit behind a desk. I didn't have to punch a card to go to work and punch a card to eat, and, something different all the time, all the different skills you get to learn and stuff. And it was just like I said, it just fit like a glove to me. It just sounded like that's exactly what I want to do.
We have a picture of your graduating class. Let's see if we can get that picture up so that we can share that with our audience. And I bet they can tell which one is you.
Well, I'm down front.
You're on the front row?
Yeah, a few pounds lighter, a little younger.
So what was that training like in the training for the firefighters?
It was great. It was like, I guess the only thing, it was like, I love gym class. Some people just don't like gym class. They hate it. I love gym class. So it was like gym class. It was like great. Every day we did exercises in the morning and we learned all kinds of, I learned to work with ropes. I learned about water. I learned about pressure and water and how to move it and, wearing all this gear and climbing ladders and going through small spaces and learning how to use all kinds of tools. And it was just, I thought it was great. I had a blast. I felt a little, a lot of especially the men in my training class were volunteers. So I really felt at a disadvantage because I was a true beginner from day one. I didn't know nothing. And some of them had already, had firefighting experience. Some of them had even driven fire trucks before. So I had a few that helped me through the class, but everything was brand new to me and some of the other gentlemen in my class also. There were some that were not firefighters, but there was quite a few that were. So I felt at a little bit of a disadvantage there, but it was truly exciting.
When you finished your training and you went to your first fire station, what was that like? Because you are the first female firefighter.
Well, I went to Fire Station 4, and Fire Station 4 is located uptown at Church and 9th Street, and it was built to house a battalion chief, or back then I think it was a division chief. And so there was a separate bedroom up there, and initially that's where they sent me, and I stayed in the separate bedroom. After about a year or so of being on the department, then I moved back into the big bedroom with all the firefighters. What normally happens is there's one big bedroom, and that's where the majority of the firefighters sleep, and then officers such as captains will have a separate bedroom, and then a battalion chief would have another bedroom. So I think once they sort of got comfortable with me and in the fire station and sleeping overnight and things, then they moved me back into the big room with the with everybody. And at that time it was just that. It was a big bedroom with a bunch of beds. So, out over here there's one fella sleeping, over here there's another fella sleeping, and then when a call came in, the lights would come on, the tone would go off, and they'd say, engine 4 or ladder 4, you've got a structure fire at such and such Graham Street, and we'd all jump in our boots and our quick hitch pants and go down the pole and jump on the truck and off we'd go. So.
Wow. So you slid down the pole, huh?
Oh yeah, my first fire station, I actually had a pole that I had to learn to slide on. So that was great. That was great because we've only got we've got 4 stations now that are 2-story and that have poles now. That's pretty much phasing out.
So how did it feel, and what was it like for your first fire, your first call?
I actually don't remember my first call because as a recruit, you go to what's called second alarm or large incident fires. And so I went to a couple of those, and I remember there was a big building uptown, and my training officer called and said, it was about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's like, you need to report uptown, we've got a large fire. And what would happen is the recruits would go up there, and what they would do is clean up. They'd roll hose and put stuff back together and everything. They wouldn't actually do firefighting unless it was defensive firefighting. And I'm like, well, what address is it? And he's like, you'll see it. And I was like, oh my gosh. just head up South Boulevard and you're going to see it. I was like, oh my goodness. So that was really scary. And actually I got to shoot a little water that night. We had, because it was mostly a defensive fire, we fought the fire from outside because the building was so old and the fire was so large. But so I think that really just sort of, you'll see it. Oh.
Just show up.
Just show up. Follow the fire and the smoke, and you'll see it.
Did you have any problems with the other firefighters, the males, not allowing you to do some of the work or expecting you to do extra work because you were a female?
I don't say not allowing me to do any work or getting me to do extra work. It was more like they would. I had to prove myself. So it wasn't, hey, slap on the back, come on, let's go do it. It's okay, let's see what she can do. Sort of a stand back and now let's see what she can do. And I had a little bit of that in training. One time we were climbing up the side of the training tower on palm pier ladders, and those are ladders that's got a single rung or a single beam and rungs on either side of it and a big old gooseneck on the end.
Okay.
And you may have seen them in old films, and they'd hook it up in the window above them, and then they'd climb up, they climb into that window, and then they hook it up to the next window and they climb up. And I had done what I was supposed to do in training. I came down, and the deputy fire chief came by, and I had to do it again for him.
Did you get a lot of that?
A little bit when I first came on, let's see what she can do. So.
I'm going to ask you a real silly question. With you being a female, did they expect for you to cook the whole time?
They did.
Oh my God.
They were so disappointed because I didn't care a thing about cooking, but I learned to cook in the fire station. My mother would be proud because I did learn to cook in the fire station, but they spread a lot of rumors that I could cook, though. My guys on my shift, they did spread some rumors that I was like this great cook, but you'll find some of the best cooks in the Charlotte Fire Department.
I've heard that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I did learn to cook in the station, in the fire station. And
I see now that you're a battalion chief. How did you get to become that?
Well, once you put in a certain amount of time, and you have certain qualifications or certifications, then you can apply for positions in the department, such as engineer, which drives the fire truck, or captain, which is the officer in charge of the fire truck and the crew on the truck. And then after that, the next step is battalion chief. And what a battalion chief is over a section of the city. They have like 7 to 8 stations in that particular area of the city that they are over, that they make sure people report to work. They're in charge of all the incidents that happen in that area of the city mostly. But you have to, like I said, you have to have certain qualifications, and then you have to take a written test.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you have to go through a promotional process. And that usually is something like a written test. You have to pass that with a certain amount of grade. And then sometimes there's a practical test where you have to go in and do like a pretend fire scene, and you have to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is what I would do, and sort of work through that fire scene. So and then from that they get a pool, and of candidates. And as positions come open that next year, then they pick from that pool and promote those people.
So you're happy with your career as being a firefighter. You wouldn't have changed it if you had a chance to way back when.
Oh no.
When your mother said, "Oh, you could be a fireman."
No, and she probably 5 minutes after she said that, she probably wishes she didn't, because she worries so.
Yes,
Even now, and I've been almost 29 years on the department. She still worries. She's like, she just really tickles me with the things that she says, and how old I am and how long I've been doing it. But it is a very hazardous job.
Yes, it is, because you would think you'd run from it, but you guys run to the fire to save us, which I'm glad you all do, but I don't think it's something that I would want to do. What was the training like? Let's go back to your days in training. What was that like? What all did you have to do?
Well, it's the job is a very physical job, so is the training. The training's very physical, and you have to maintain that physical ability. But you learn, first of all, we are first responders for medical incidents in the city. So we go to wrecks, we go to emergency medical calls. So there was like 4 or 5 weeks where all we studied was first aid type of training, CPR, and splinting brakes and all other kinds of things that you would do on an emergency medical scene. So we went through 4 or 5 weeks of that. Then we'd have like a week of hose, where we learned all about fire hose, the different sizes, what they're made of, how much pressure it takes from the fire truck to pump a certain amount of water through that hose to come out the other end, and it delivers how many gallons. Then we had a week of rescue, where we learned how to tie knots, how we learned to put people in Stokes baskets and tie them into that Stokes basket. Let's say someone fell and broke a leg or something up on a building under construction or something, and we had to lower that person down. Sometimes like a window washer that might get stuck or something. So we go through rescue, we go through learning how to use our SCBA, which is the air that we carry on our back. We learn all about our turnout gear, and how it can protect us, how it can't protect us.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you learn about.
How much does that, the gear that you wear, how much does that weigh?
It weighs anywhere from 65 to 75 pounds.
Really?
By the time you get your boots on, your pants, your jacket, your SCBA, your helmet, your gloves,
and you got to carry all that plus the fire hose.
Yeah.
And maybe a person that's unconscious, maybe in a fire,
yes,
out too.
You've got to be able to drag someone out
Wow.
if you need to, be it another firefighter or a victim in the fire.
So can you tell us about an exciting fire story or something funny that happened to you on one of your outings to put out a fire?
Oh, goodness.
I bet you have lots of stories.
Well, what's funny now is, as a senior member in the department now, and seeing the things that they have, like we've got computers in the truck that tell us, we can pull up a map and see where we're going to our fire and actually follow it. And before, we had to read the map book, and we had cards. We would go out when I first came on, and you knew every street in your territory. That engineer knew those streets and knew his territory. That was his job. And now it could just come up on the computer, and they can find their way that way if they want to. But we would make index cards. And so when we'd get a call, the engineer would go to the truck, and a firefighter would get that index card, and it had written on that card every turn to make to get to that street. So I guess more than anything that's so interesting now is just the advances that are out there now that, we didn't have. Like when we went and fought fire, the hose, when I first came on, you had to wash it and clean it and hang it up in the tower to dry. And the fire stations had towers on them. So not only were you, when you got through with the fire, you'd roll up the hose, you'd take it back to the fire station, and then you'd roll it out in the back parking lot, and you'd scrub it down. And then you'd hang it to dry. You'd go get more clean hose that was stored at the station and repack the fire truck. Well, the hose we've got now, you get through with the fire, you load it right back up and go to your next incident. So, so you know, it just, the advances that's really have come along in the years that I've been with the fire departments just is really been the interesting thing to see. Like the jaws of life, the things, you know, being able to pry open metal in cars, and you know, we're into not only just fighting fires and providing medical assistance to our citizens, we're into collapsed buildings. We, you know, how to stabilize that and how to get people out of that. We also have a dive team now, so we have that, and a swift water rescue team and stuff.
Right. Because we had some flooding here a couple of weeks ago, and the fire department was there.
Yeah, so we're into so many, you know, it's still the fire department, but we're into so many more things these days than just fighting fire that we're trained to do that a lot of the citizens don't realize that we're doing. So.
Do you all have people to go out into the schools to talk to the little kids about fire safety?
Oh yes,
and what to do. Have you done that? Have you had?
I have during my career. I have done that a number of times. But we do have a special department in the department. A special department in the department that concentrates on fire education, and we've got something now what's called a smokehouse, and it's a small trailer that sort of resembles on a child scale like a little playhouse. But what we do is we get children in this little trailer. It's got little chairs and beds in it and stuff, and then we fill it with this fake smoke, so we can teach them how to crawl out under the smoke and what the sound of the smoke detector sounds like if their smoke detector in their home goes off, and how to get out if they see smoke or hear the smoke detector, and how to react to it. And that's another program we've got in the schools to teach about fire education. But our fire educators, you know, they go out to all the schools and talk to them about fire education, fire safety, how to protect themselves, not to play with matches. So. And we try to get the firefighters in the schools to show them what a firefighter looks like and sounds like, especially, you know, when we're breathing, we sound a lot like what Darth Vader used to sound like.
No, that is right.
Yeah, and it can be scary for a small child. So we like to get the firefighters out into the schools and show them that this is, you know, see, I'm a real person. Now let me put on my turnout gear and on my protection equipment and see I look different, but underneath I'm just a person like you. So that we do some of that, but we've also got a fire investigation department in the fire department that investigates fires to see if we can't figure out exactly how they've started. And then we got fire prevention that also goes out to businesses and makes sure that they're up to code on their fire safety equipment, fire extinguishers and sprinkler systems and stuff like that.
So whenever the fire department, whenever they are doing their recruiting, do you go out to maybe the high schools or the colleges to try to recruit other firefighters or
I used to, we do some. We've got a recruiting officer now that handles most of that, and we join forces sometimes with medic and police and have like a female firefighter day or a female police officer day and try to recruit females or minorities for the fire service, and we join up with medic and police to try to do that sometimes.
You may not know this, but I was just wondering, how many female firefighters do we have? Can you give me a roundabout figure?
Yeah, we have between about 35 and 40 females. I don't know the exact number anymore. It's a little hard to keep up with, but we've got about 40 females. A lot of captains. We've got some that drive the truck. Still some on the fire, and there's a number of there's like 4 or 5 battalion chiefs.
Really? And you were the first firefighter?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh man. And what did your father think about you becoming a firefighter?
Oh, he was excited about it too.
Oh,
but
really?
He didn't quite express the worry that my mother did. But he was excited and very, very, very proud.
Very proud.
And I try to tell, like you said, you've seen something on TV and you couldn't see a female firefighter. We were talking earlier about that, what I would tell my friends, I'd say, look for someone that looks like they've got their father's stuff on. Because initially when I come on, you know, luckily I was a fairly average female, and so I could fit into small male's clothing. But every time I see myself, I look like I'm a child walking around in my father's gear or something. I don't know, but so the big helmet and the overcoat and everything, you just sort of look for the small one out there.
You know, we don't have very many fires here in Charlotte, so what did the firefighters or firemen, what do they do during that time when it's not a fire?
Oh, we're always training.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have training, almost a different type of training almost every month. Like this last month, we just went through some hose relay pumping evolutions, and that what happens there is, like, if your house is set too far off the road, we may need to relay pump from that hydrant, because the hydrant may be too far away to just use one fire truck from hydrant to the house. So you might have to put 2 fire trucks and almost like establish a water line all the way to the house, and before you can stretch a line into the house. So we always training on our rescue techniques, simple firefighting tactics, EMS. We have to maintain a certain amount of hours on on rescue, EMS, and other areas of our service delivery to be firefighters. It's required by the state.
So why is it? I've always wondered why, when there's a medical emergency, of course medic is there, and then the fire truck is there also. Why do you need both there?
Well, you don't, like a fire almost, a medical emergency they can call in and say, well, he's choking, and you get there and maybe he's not choking, he's having a heart attack. And you know, between maybe doing CPR, and medic carries a lot of intervention drugs that they can use on scene now that you don't have to wait till you get to the hospital to get. So it takes a lot of personnel to be able to help somebody that's having a real crisis, a medical emergency. You would have someone to maybe give them oxygen, someone to do the CPR, someone to get the cot in there, or someone to pull certain drugs up, or IVs that they might need, that they could go ahead and get started on this person before they even reach the hospital. There's a lot more medical, a lot more emergency medical practices that can be done on scene now. And if we're not needed, then we just go back in service. So it's almost like it's better to have more than not have enough.
That's true too. So can you share with us any funny stories about your adventure along this career path that you've taken?
Well, I guess fun stories. It's, you know, it's always fun. The guys and the girls at the fire station, we become a big family, because now we work 24-hour shifts. And once we get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're there till 8 o'clock the next morning. And we cut up and sometimes play practical jokes on each other. And
that's what I want to hear, some of the jokes.
And the old black phones that you used to have to dial with when I first came
rotary,
on. The rotary. And they would sit on the cradle. Well, when I first came on, the big trick was to go put shaving cream on the earpiece of the phone sitting there, and then they'd call you to the phone over the intercom system, and you'd go answer the phone and stick shaving cream in your ear. So, but that's, you know, we're a big family, and we love to cut up, and it's all meant in good and lighthearted fun. And we know things about each other, and like I said, it's just like a big family.
Because you're with each other so many hours. It's not like a regular job.
And we see things and experience things on our calls and our emergency scenes that your family back home sometimes doesn't understand. And so we've got a different bond there too, that we talk to our fellow firefighters with, about, you know, wow, did you see that? Or wow, you know, they went through the same thing that you did. You know, it was a hard medical call. It was a bad wreck.
Okay.
It was a difficult fire to reach and put out. So there's a different kind of bond there than you would have at home.
I take it if you saw something serious like that, do you have like therapists that come and
Yes,
counsel you, or
we do.
counselors that come and talk to you.
Right.
When you see something real traumatic.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we
Yeah.
do. We do have stress debriefing sessions after, maybe a tragedy with a child or something like that, or a very involved incident. We do have debriefing sessions for our firefighters.
I bet those are hard to go and see.
Yeah, well, they come to the station. As soon as we get back from the incident, we have on call.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, that will come right out to the station and talk to us right then and there. But we, a lot of times we're our own therapist to each other because we were there and we saw it, and.
Have you received any awards over your career with the fire department?
Gosh,
Yeah, I see all those little.
that's my little 25-year pin.
Uh-huh.
I think this is my 9/11 pin, and I can't remember what that one is. I'm sorry.
Well, you've been there, 29 years?
Yeah, and I've done a lot of things. I've been on the honor guard, and I've been on the hazmat team, and I've done a number of things. But I've never had a big rescue or anything like that that I've gotten a big award for.
Did you all have, speaking of 9/11, did you all have counselors there when that happened?
Yes.
In New York? That was really, I can't even find the words to describe it. It was really
Tragic.
yes,
it
and
was
just
devastating.
unreal. I hope that never happens here in Charlotte.
Oh, I do too.
But if it does, are we prepared for that?
Absolutely, we sure are. And from that came a lot of understanding where our weaknesses was. In communication and working together, all the departments that that come to a scene like that, police, medic. We thought we were working good together, and then something like that happens, and it really points out some deep areas that are not there. Better communication, better understanding of each other's vocabulary,
Right.
better understanding of how you work at an incident, unified command, making sure that the people that are calling the shots are together and working together.
I think that was one of the downfalls for 9/11. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a treat for me because I've often wondered who was the first female firefighter and what was it like for her to be in a fire station with all of those men. Where did she sleep? Where did she shower? Did she have to cook the whole time? And I'm sure our viewers enjoyed you coming to visit us too, and maybe we could have you come back again.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. He told me to wrap it up. Nice.